All right, guys, I have 104. I'm ready to start, team, if you guys are.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, let's get going. Ryan, did you want to start us off?
Oh, absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name is Ryan Breeden. I am one of the TRIO academic coaches of TRIO Student Support Services. I'm super excited to be here with you guys today and talk about how to do a newsletter for your audience. And then I guess Corey or Ashley could go next and introduce themselves.
Yes, welcome, Amber. We're just getting started. So I am Corey Niles. I am the first year academic coach, and we are excited to talk to you about newsletters today.
And my name is Ashley Stevens. I work with Job Corps Scholars, and I'm one of the personal counselors. And I am super excited to have such a great group. Thank you, everyone, for showing up today.
All right, you guys, we're going to break the ice. I know it's 1 o'clock, and I know today has been hectic, but we're going to break the ice here. In the comment box, I want you to answer these questions. So the first one we're going to shoot for is, how is your day going? So in the chat box, if you could use emojis to let us know how you're feeling today. How's your day going? I'm going to start it off. Let's see here. Oh, we got... Somebody beat me to the punch. Who is it?
Y'all, Erin, I feel that.
Yes.
Oh, I was in the wrong chat. Hold on, guys. I'll put it in the...
Amber, Linda, I love it. Ashley, y'all beat me to the punch. I'm trying to find my... Don't you hate when you can't find the emoji you're trying to find?
There's so many, and they keep adding more and more. I feel you. Peggy is in a good mood. I love that one, Peggy. It's so happy and cheerful.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. So we're going to go to the next one. What emoji do you use the most often? Oh, I love it.
The crying tear for the eyes.
I'm loving this.
I'm going to say, yes, Miss Palumbo, I do use those side eyes too sometimes.
Let's see. All right, thank you. And then our last one is, oh, we still got people coming in. Oh, I love the star eyes.
Ryan, I love that one. The head palm.
Oh yeah, I'm always like, oh my goodness.
Yes.
I have mom brain. Let's see here. So how do you feel about creating newsletters? Okay, now we need to see some emojis on this one. Okay, strong. We got the thinking face, the I'm not sure, crying face. What is that face? The nerdy face, cheese. Linda, shocked and surprised.
And puzzled.
Puzzled.
Angry. I love this, guys. So if you guys cannot tell, we are a very lively group, and we love using different types of communication, and we think emojis is a great way to better understand our audience, and we're going to talk more about that as we get started. So thank you, everyone, for participating.
Yes, thank you, guys.
Okay, and that brings us to kind of where we're starting out. So we're going to walk you through kind of our process with creating newsletters and some things to consider along the way, as well as some resources that we found helpful. And we think one of the first things that we tend to do when looking at newsletters is thinking about audience and accessibility before you even start putting down a word on the page. So one thing to consider is your audience's needs. So first, who is your audience? Are you writing a newsletter for students? Is it for fellow professionals? Is it for promotional reasons to other schools? Naturally, depending on those things, the information in your newsletter is going to look a little different. Also, just considering what's important to them. You know, a student who's taking a full load of courses has a lot of different kind of values than a professional maybe who just generally wants to develop their skills in whatever you're talking about. Also, why are they reading your newsletter is another great thing to think about. Are they participants in your program? Are they colleagues who want to know what you're doing in your office? Again, these are all different things that can help start shaping your newsletter before you even sit down to get started. Also, how are you making your newsletters accessible to them? So something to consider with this is just physically, how are they getting it? Is it email? We're going to dive into some different technology, but also just the idea of, is it accessible to all types of people? So can anyone read it, enjoy the newsletter? And again, we're going to dive a little more into that throughout the presentation, but generally thinking about these things up front can help save you a lot of time in the drafting. Also, just consider your needs. What's your goal? Sometimes what your students or audience wants or colleagues want might be different than the goal of your newsletter. So that's something that you're going to have to battle with and grapple with when creating this. So maybe the students really just want some general updates, but you know they need some concrete information. So how can we balance that from the start? Also, how much do you need to tell your audience about your topic? So as many of you know, I have an English background. So if you give me a blank page, I will fill more than anything you would ever need. But that's something that I have to consider for our newsletters and the TRIO program. We work with students. So naturally, they don't want to read a 5-paragraph article about a topic. We got to kind of keep it a lot shorter. And that's something that we consider going into it, so I don't take that time typing that all out. Also, just how are you meeting the needs of your program? So a lot of times a newsletter is a result of goals or needs of the program. So again, thinking about overall, what is the main purpose here? What is the information? And naturally, the ideal newsletter will kind of match both your audience needs and your needs somewhere in the middle. And that kind of brings us to talking more about technology.
Yes, so when we're thinking about newsletter, we also want to think about technology on two ways. We want to think about what type of technology we're using to create newsletters, as well as what technology is our audience using to read our newsletter. So what is the best program to create a newsletter? Listen, there's no real answers. There's no right answer. On the screen here, you see that we have Canva, we have Microsoft Word, we have Google Docs, we have MailChimp, which is a subscription service that you would have to pay for. There's also Adobe Shark, there's LucidPress, there's Adobe InDesign, there's Microsoft Publishers. There are other platforms that you can use to create newsletters. And a little bit later in this presentation, we're going to share with you a newsletter that we actually created on 3 different platforms. So you can see how the same information can look different on different platforms. Now that, you know, many people read emails on mobile devices, even read emails on smartphones, desktops, tablets, you name it, people use it. We have to think about what format that we're putting our newsletters in. The best template to use is a responsive template, and Canva is great for that. All you have to do is go on to Canva, select templates, and then you're going to select newsletter, and then you can customize it to an email format. Basically, this helps with the resizing when it comes to opening up your newsletter. So no matter if somebody's opening up on a smartphone, a tablet, or a computer, the responsive template will resize itself. So that's definitely important when it comes to your newsletter. I want to talk to you guys about some key points to take away from when you're creating your newsletter, because we know that a lot of people nowadays are opening up newsletters on mobile devices, tablets, and they'll look at the email subject and they may not even click on it, depending on what it is. Like, oh my gosh, here's another newsletter. Like, what is it about? If you just take away some key pointers as far as in your subject field, use 6 to 10 words in your subject line to grab that attention. Send your email newsletters during work days or after lunch when people are more engaged with their emails, as well as if you can personalize the subject line and just make it so that your audience knows who it is. For example, we send out in Trio SSS on a daily basis, we send out our daily email. So in that daily, in our subject line, we go ahead and let our reader know what it is that they can expect in that email. For example, I do the Monday, so I'll do a hot topic or important update call out in the subject line to make the reader more engaged, and so to know that this is something that I need to read. And I want to talk to you guys about color scheme, because that's another thing that's very important when it comes to newsletters. I'm sorry, did we? No, I'm sorry. It's layouts that's next. I'm sorry. Color schemes is coming. Stay tuned.
No worries, guys. It's a lot of great information, so thank you. So the next process of creating this newsletter, after you've identified your audience, you have selected what platform you want to use, is starting with the layout. And luckily, with a lot of these newer apps and programs, the layouts are actually pre-done and pre-designed. So all you have to do is adjust the colors, and you can rearrange it how you choose. Some are more user-friendly than others, so it just kind of comes down to personal choice. But when you're making your layout, here's some key things we want you to keep in mind, in addition to keeping your audience in mind as well. So first of all, of course, have your titles on the top. This is the first thing your readers are going to see. I always recommend having them bold or in a larger font. So for example, this is a sample of our newsletter, and we keep our brand name across the top, so we're the Job Corps Scholars News, and the date, so that way the students always know which version they're currently reading. And then we have our titles very, very big, very, very bold, because we know that a lot of our audience look at their mobile device to read their emails and documents. So we have to use a larger font than what we would use on a Word document. So keep your titles on top. Keep your subtitles and your titles bold and use different colors. We also like to use the italicized for additional information. So if you have some information you want to add just a little bit more that's kind of on the side, by changing the font or italicizing the font, it catches the eye in a different way, and it can grab the reader's attention as well. In terms of accessibility and reading, we recommend that you don't use any font smaller than 12-point font. We use a 14-point font minimum, so that way all readers have the ability to read it clearly on any viewable tablet or computer or phone. And then putting text around the images. Sometimes when you're messing with images and formatting, you'll find that the text kind of gets wonky when you place the image around it. So be aware of that, so that way there's enough space between your text and the images that they don't overlap when they change formats from phone to desktop. Using different fonts and different colors, again, keeping accessibility in the forefront of your mind. Some fonts do not read as easily when they're compressed on a mobile device, so just keep that in mind, but you can still use different fonts and different colors on your page. For our example, we have, I think, 4 or 5 different fonts just on this one slide, just to keep the reader's attention. And then last but not least, we have keep clear sections of different concepts. So I'm going to show you another example on the next slide. This is Trio's February mentee newsletter, and they have made it very clear the different segments of their newsletter. So we know on the front page the upcoming workshops have been boxed, so the reader can go right to that section and know those are where the dates are going to be. They can put that then on their calendar or in their planner, but it's very clearly defined that this is where this information is. And then on the second page, they use the column method to break down information in different segments so that the reader can easily go through the information and kind of absorb everything, even if they're just skimming it versus reading all of the text. So think of these things when you're formatting. Do you want to use a column format? Do you want to use boxes? And how are you going to incorporate those images as you're laying out your newsletter?
And here we are, color, scheme, and mood. So you guys, you know it's very important when it comes to your newsletter, just thinking about your color scheme and the mood, because certain colors go with certain text in a format. Just think about it. When is the last time you've seen a Christmas card in pink and orange? You have to think about that. With your content has to match the color and vice versa. You won't be surprised to learn that a majority of consumers report that color is the most important factor that influences their everyday lives in selecting different items. So you want to think about your audience and how they're going to feel or how they're going to perceive your message based on your color scheme and the mood that you've chosen. This is one reason why you always want to consider what kind of emotion you're giving off to your audience. Do you want them to feel excited and cheerful? You may use reds. If you want them to feel relaxed, you may use yellows or blues. So that's something to definitely consider. When designing your newsletter, it is important to remember not to go overboard with too many colors. A rule of thumb is a 3-color limit. I know that I really love to use Canva, and they go ahead and lay it out for you. And you'll know as far as how many colors to use based on the template they've given you. Also, Microsoft Word, they do a good job of that. But just know there's a unspoken 3-color limit to just follow, and shadows of white and gray work well as background colors in your newsletter. And just let's dive a little bit deeper here and to just look at different colors and what they can mean. So here we've kind of put together just different colors and what they give off. So for example, orange, you see there, energetic, bold, exciting, you grab your attention. Also orange, it is a combination of that red and that yellow, so it tends to lead to happiness, and is associated with fun and youthfulness. And we have green here, you know, that relates to money, finance. A lot of people use green when it comes to nature, health, safety, calm. Depending on the shade of green, it could mean ambition. So let's think about it like that. When you're looking at blues, calm, trust, relaxing, they also conveys trust, knowledge, competency, cleanliness. Think about, you know, like when you think about blue, think about you go on a job interview, or you go into a professional setting. You know, you wear black, you're really sharp, you're really clean, it really stand out. But blue also is a good statement to show that you're calm, you're trustworthy. And then finally, we'll go to yellow here. Yellow, energy, joy, happiness, friendship. What can I say? It grabs your attention. It lets you, and it invites you in, but not in a overbearing way. However, if your yellow is too intense, it may convey a different feel versus a pale yellow to a bright yellow. So you have to think about the shading of any color that you choose that will convey a feeling. When I think about a color that many people kind of pushed aside sometime is that pink. Pink is very girly, you know, but depending on the shade of pink, it could work for you. Thinking about pink, like T-Mobile, for example, their color is pink, but you don't really think girly when you look at T-Mobile. So it's just all about that shading of pink that you choose, or that shading of blue, red, yellow, orange, whatever. It depends on the shading, which will help your newsletter stand out. It will also help your reader to connect better with the content. And we're going to move along to images.
Awesome. And I'm going to go back, just one last thing I wanted to share. And if you guys can notice, when we created this slide, we put the color white on top of the green, orange, and blue. But in the yellow square, we actually used the color black, just because that increased the contrast. So again, keeping accessibility forefront in our mind is when you double layer these colors is how much contrast is between the two. And to always keep that in mind as to how this color will read to the reader's eyes, especially if there's any type of reading disability. So keep that in mind. I thought this was a great example, and I wanted to emphasize. Great job, Ryan, for catching that as well. All right, so moving into images. So I think it's really important that when you're creating your newsletter, you are representing the population that you are serving. So representation matters. So when you're creating images and you're creating newsletter and you're collecting images, whether that be online, whether you're working with the marketing team and collecting images that they've taken on campus of students, it's important to think about who is your audience and what audience are you representing in the newsletter. And then do these images also represent the audience correctly and authentically? So are your images inclusive? Are they diverse? Are you only showcasing one gender and gender roles if you're using a different type of career images? Or are you using one type of individual or one group of individuals when you know that your audience is diverse and collective? So keep that in mind so that way you have a well-rounded representation in your newsletter. And then also, can your audience visualize themselves in their images? So when your audience is reading this newsletter, whether it be students, faculty, staff, community members, and this is something that they're, information they're absorbing, can they visualize themselves or other students in those roles? For example, I love this image of this woman in the construction uniform. So our females who are going into the construction field, they also have representation in those newsletters in a field that's typically dominated by males. So I think it's really important to think about as you're creating these newsletter. And then I also created a few more examples. So does your photos match your theme? So as you're selecting your images for the newsletter, going back to the very beginning and you're thinking about those goals, do the images match the theme in the newsletter? So for Job Corps scholars, we work primarily with youth, so 16 through 24, and we work with students who are interested in trying to earn industry-leading credentials to go right into the workforce. So it's important for us to use images of different individuals and different students in these job roles. So our theme typically are different uniforms associated with different jobs. For example, we have a chef, and then we also have some nurses wearing scrubs. We have a teacher wearing a traditional button-up shirt. We have a businesswoman, and then we have a construction worker. So again, can our students visualize themselves in these roles, and are we representing them fairly? Last but not least is the use of clip art. Clip art has been around for a long, long time, and it is super easy just to copy and paste a piece of clip art into your newsletter, but it's important to also think about your overall theme and that color palette. So do your clip art items match? Do the colors contrast enough? I prefer like really simple clip art items, for example, like the Facebook icon if I'm including a Facebook link, a camera icon if we're talking about something about photos or photography. If there's calendar dates, I always put the little calendar icon. So that way our readers can also associate the image to help retain the information on the newsletter.
All right, yeah, and now with the layout and the images and the color, these are all things that you're going to be doing as you're drafting your newsletter. And what we found helpful is once you've finished that draft, go through with an accessibility check. So that really is just making sure that this is accessible to all audiences. It also will just generally improve the quality of your newsletter. So making sure that information is conveyed in images and videos, and that's also provided in the text. So, if you have a nice image saying congratulations, make sure that that's written in the text as well, so people who can't see those images can still appreciate that message. Also, again, jumping back to color and background, make sure there is a good contrast between them. You don't want to have a bright red background with an orange text, because then a lot of people will generally just find that more difficult to read. And ideally, if we've gotten students or colleagues, if we're asking them to take time to read it, we want to make it as easy as possible for them to read through it. Also, just making sure language is clear and concise. Again, English background, I love my big words, but I do not need them most of the time, especially in newsletters. Again, we're all working pretty hard right now and also just are on a tight schedule. So how quickly can we provide this information? Do we need a paragraph or do we need a sentence? And being okay with just kind of firmly getting that information out as clear and concise as possible. Also, just making sure that clickable links are described as such in the text. Like if you're going to link to a different website or a different video, it's great just to in parentheses next to it. Just say that. Again, that'll help everyone just know that there's a link there, but it'll also help with screen readers as well. And a lot of this information we've been provided with by some great resources on campus. So the first one is the Office of Student Accessibility Services. Megan Sherman and I have been able to attend a few different trainings on accessibility services and just different ways to really enhance our services in our newsletters, and she was really an amazing resource for us. Also, the marketing office, they have college logos, branding guides, also just the official college colors. So a lot of colors will have a specific code that you can type in on these websites or programs where you're building your newsletters. And those are, again, a great resource. They also have stock images that are accessible to you. So again, you don't have to make sure that images are in the Creative Commons. You can kind of find some in there as well. We also just have another resource, which is a PDF on designing for accessibility, and we'll make sure to get you those resources after the presentation. But with that and those final considerations, you also want to go back to your readers' technology.
All right, so again with the technology piece, because we really want to help and just gear in on the fact that a lot of our readers today are using multiple types of technology to access our newsletter. We're not reading, tangible newspapers anymore, like the little doggy in the picture. We are getting all of our information via the internet, via emails, and websites, depending on how you deliver your newsletter. So our audience is using technology in accessing our newsletters via computers, tablets, iPads, smartphones. So just if you thinking about what we've mentioned so far, think about the layout, think about the color, make sure you're being concise, bullet points, bullet point the facts, and just get straight to the point when it comes to those newsletters, because we want to make sure that people are getting all the information they need in a quick way. One thing that we do over in Trio SSS is just engage our readers. We love to put GIFs in our newsletters. We like to put them in our emails and just engage the readers, because we know that a lot of people are opening, our students are opening our content and connecting with us via their mobile phone. And what people do on their mobile phones a lot on social media. So we want to be that interactive point and engage with them through technology. So just remember, when you guys are putting everything together, the overall, how is the reader connecting with us? Is it via computer? Is it a tablet? Is it an iPad? Is it a smartphone? Know that there are responsive templates out there that will help you with customizing the sizing of your newsletter. Canva is a great source to do that on, and there's multiple others, but Canva is one that is free and it's very user friendly. But we really, enjoy you guys today, and we are excited to speak to you guys a little bit more, answer questions. So I'm gonna hand it over to Ashley.
Awesome. And we do have some examples, as we mentioned at the very beginning. We wanted to create some different examples using different platforms. So that way you guys can see a few different ways that the newsletter can look based off of the different platforms that are available. So this is one that I created using a program called Constant Contact. This is actually a paid subscription program. So I signed up. I tried the free trial. So I liked it because you can actually plan out your emails and your newsletters ahead of time, and it will actually schedule the emails to be sent out for you. So as a busy educator, as a busy staff member, I thought that was an excellent benefit that you can create your newsletter at the very towards the middle of the month when you have a few. When we have some free time, right? So you can get that taken care of, but then you can upload it to the Constant Contact. They have templates. This was a pre-done template. I did not adjust this at all. And then I could schedule it to be sent out on the 1st at 1 p.m. So I don't even have to make that extra step. It is already done and programmed for me. So I thought that was a great benefit. Some pros of using this platform was, again, excellent pre-done layout, so you're consistent from month to month in your newsletter. Again, they also gave you suggestions on what colors to use to improve contrast. So when I went to go ahead and start creating this newsletter, it already had a darker shade of the orange in the colors suggested, so that way there was some contrast between the orange and the tan. And then same thing with the grays. It already suggested a darker gray color to use on the light gray to improve contrast. So this was a great resource. And one thing I wanted to include too, when you're finishing your newsletter and you're doing your double check, is at the very bottom I have a click here link, and if you notice, it's not hyperlinked, and that is kind of a no-no. If you're going to include hyperlinks in your newsletter, please double check to make sure that the hyperlinks are live, because if not, then you're not going to have students actually click them or readers click those hyperlinks. So I made a mistake there, so just double check that you don't do that in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And for the next newsletter, we used Canva. So this is what the Trio mentor program uses. And for this one, what I did is they have a image bank. So I searched for newsletters and I found this image with the red and navy, and I was like, oh, that looks great. So as soon as I put that image in there, Canva let me know that I could change the color scheme of this template to match it. So it automatically changed those reds, those blues. It was very easy. All I had to do then is copy in the information. I also pulled the Central Carolina Community College logo from marketing. And again, marketing has a lot of great resources as far as rules of that and whatnot. And with another great thing too is that with a lot of these newsletters on Canva, they'll give you multiple pages. So again, this was mostly laid out for me, and I could just paste in the information and just kind of add in some headings. And you see here, I also included some clip art. So Canva again has a lot of that. So with the images, I just put little photos in there. Also, I was able to put in the logos with the technology. So again, it's just kind of playing with as far as images and technology. And then again on the last page is kind of similar. So I was able to pull those clip arts for the different like computer, iPad, tablet, smartphone, and that just helps you consider how you want to present your information, because we could just do that in a short list, make it a little square in the corner, but kind of expanding it out makes it a little easier on the eyes and makes it more readable for our audience. And again, we're going to make sure that you all get these different newsletters just so you have some ideas, but we have one more that we want to show you.
And this newsletter was done through Microsoft Word. Again, you guys, the content on all three of these newsletters is the same. They just look different because we use different platforms. So I created this one using Microsoft Word, went in, searched different templates. I pulled this one out to use. Very easy to use. I was able to go in there and add in those different little images. So the people, the piece of paper, the artist, very user friendly, and was able to have multiple sheets there as well, so I didn't have to recreate anything. But very user friendly, and Microsoft Word was the platform that I use. One thing that I do want to mention with Ashley, she used Constant Contact. Since we do have Google or Gmail as a source of ways that we communicate, there is a feature that you can go ahead and set to pre-send out emails. So if the Constant Contact is something that you want to use but not sure about using it, you can set in your emails to send stuff out, to schedule it on a different day. So you can go ahead and compile your email together, put in your attachments, your newsletter, save it, and schedule it for another day to send out later in the week or later in the day, because I know that we're all busy and we want to make this most effective and efficient for you guys.
And I don't know if we can turn the screen off so you guys can see the camera. I wanted to show one last quick example that I thought of. Hopefully you guys can see me. So this is actually what the newsletter would look like on my phone. So it's exactly the same one that we had on the timeline, but this is reminding ourselves this is what our audience is reading, right? Like this is what their experience is going to be like. So one of the great tips that I have learned is I send it to myself. I look at it on my phone to make sure that all the fonts are clear, I can read it, and I can zoom in easily. So that way I know when my students or my audience and my participants are reading this, they will have the same user experience without any glitches as well. So I just wanted to show that as well, that it is great to look at it on the computer before you click send, but always double check what it looks like on a mobile device just to be double sure. And that's it, guys. Do you guys have any questions for us?
We know we were giving you a lot of information, so please take your time if you want to think about it.
Oh, thank you. I'm kind of curious, does anyone have a newsletter they're currently working on or writing, or something that they learned that was a new takeaway? And Wendy, yes, we will send out the recording, and we will send out the PDF of all of our samples that has all of the PowerPoint notes put in different formats, so you can refer to it as a quick, easy guide. I use Constant Contact.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, so we're predominantly using Canva, and then we'll download that as a PDF and email that to our participants.
Mm-hmm. And you also can, as Ashley was saying, using the links. I know that we use Canva and we have the links in there, and we sometimes, depending on if we only have like one link in our newsletter, you can copy and embed the newsletter itself into the email, and then when they click the image, it'll take them to the source. So that's another way, because of course nowadays people don't click that often, so they may not even click the attachment. So if there's a way that you can embed the image and then also have the link for them to click, that'll help the engagement rate of your newsletter go up.
Absolutely. And again, we thought this would just be a great place to kind of start the discussion. We are definitely not experts in writing newsletters, but these are just some things that we found helpful with working with different audiences, and we're always open to collaborate. So if you guys have different ideas or different technology, we're all ears.
And if you guys ever create a newsletter, we would love to see it too. Please send it. We love learning about what's going on in the college. And if you would like to receive one of ours, just let us know too, and we'll add you to the email list. We send ours out every month, so. All right. I think that's it, everybody. I don't think we see any more questions. Thank you again for showing up today. I know everyone has a lot on their plate this time of year, so I appreciate you guys showing. We will send those recordings and PDFs and resources out, and we hope that you have some fun creating newsletters.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.